It's Monday. I've got everything ready to go. How's everybody doing? How was your weekend? My people, I just love hanging out with you all so much. And we're back. So we are doing episode 7 today. I was looking through the rest of what we have, and I think that we're going to end up with 12 episodes total. Originally, it was going to be 11, but because episode 4 kind of got cut off in a weird way, we are doing, we're going to go to 12 episodes. So this week will be 7 and 8, and then next week will be 9 and 10, and then the next week will be 11 and 12. So I think that'll be how we're going to do it. And then we will be doing Friday coffee chats every week. And as soon as this is over, so it'll be like 11 and 12 coffee chat. And then the very following week, we will begin Demons Forever. And that will take us all the way to October's Spooktacular. What I don't know at this point is, will we still be with this backdrop in this office in October? I have no idea. I was so looking forward to and believing for sure that as soon as September, I thought for sure by August, probably, we were supposed to be in our brand new house. And so I thought just as long as, even if it's delayed, as long as we're in by October, that would just be so amazing. And now it's just like, so who knows what's going to happen. I don't have a clue, but we did go, if you were kind of watching our, my various social media, Instagram stories and stuff like that. We went yesterday to go see the house. And so it's complicated. And anytime I talk about it, I feel like people have to say, oh, that should be illegal. You know, people want to give their advice and stuff like that, which I do appreciate. But at the same time, it gets a little bit frustrating to feel like I have to keep explaining it or like justifying our choices or whatever. So it's wrapped up in a lot of different emotions, I would say. But in the end, the house, the builder, if you go and you Google builders canceling house contracts 2021, you're going to see that it's happening literally all over the country. Texas, Ohio, Alabama, Georgia, Florida, South Carolina. It's like, I read a statistic from the National Housing Authority or something that 50% of homes that were being built have either had the price raised or they have canceled contracts. And it's a clause that is in all building contracts. Like there's no builder contracts that don't have a clause to try to protect the builder from cost of materials going up, and costs of lumber and everything went up by 4 times. So it's one of those kind of crazy things where it's like just the back end of COVID, and either builders are going to have to take a huge loss on the houses that they were building, or they have to charge more. And so it's one of those kind of things where it's like, I don't think they're trying to be bad people necessarily, but what's been frustrating is the fact that they won't tell us what they want to charge for the house, because I think they're waiting to see how much they think they can get for it. So it's like, will it be $20,000 price range, or will it be $200,000 price range? So or price increase, and nobody knows. And there are some builders that are honoring their contracts and they're just going to lose money and do right by people. And there's some builders that aren't. So we're just kind of stuck in between, but there doesn't seem to be, after talking to lawyers, any real legal recourse here other than to just wait and see what happens. So we're kind of hanging out. But we did go and see the house yesterday, and it really made me cry because it is absolutely beautiful. And it's like everything that I picked out from this really long subway tile with the gray grout to the nice, beautiful wooden floors to everything else is just such a dream. So if you have any positive vibes to send, just send thoughts that whatever is meant to be best for our family is what will work out. Because I do truly believe that in the grand scheme of life, there are very few things that don't work out in the end. It's like, I even say going through 2 house fires, you guys have heard me talk about this before, going through 2 house fires and losing every single thing I owned just about was actually a huge blessing in my life, because it got me woke me up and got me out of an abusive marriage. And otherwise I might have had a really hard time financially getting out of that marriage. So it was actually a huge blessing. So I do feel like, and I know that I have seen evidence in my life that even when things appear to be a struggle or appear to like not be going the way that you wanted them to, a lot of times it's actually like happening for your favor and for your best good. And so I am choosing to believe that. But what gets hard is like not knowing what the result is going to be. It's like I am such a future like goal-based person that I feel like I want to know, which is maybe just part of trying to lose control a little bit and say, okay, I'm going to try not to try not to control this 100% and instead try to just accept that what is meant to be will be. And maybe we'll end up in an even better house, or maybe we'll end up in a different state, or who the heck knows. So I don't know. I saw some people mentioning too that they finished Vengeful Darkness and loved it. Thank you so much, Beth. And I think Beth just had a birthday, right? So happy birthday to you, Beth. And I saw some other people, and yeah, it is confusing because there's 14 houses involved and they were all in various stages. But by the time they canceled the contracts and things like that, our house was almost already finished. But it's just, they're trying to just get as much as they can for the collective group of homes. So we'll see. Maybe it'll be our house. Maybe it'll be something different. And maybe, yeah, I really and truly believe if I look back on every hard thing that I've ever been through, I can always see how it has turned out to be for my very best good. And so in some ways, I'm kind of excited to see if this means that we're going to have something even better coming into our lives really soon, because maybe it will be. Maybe there will be just like, because this is a dream house. It's beautiful, but my like ultimate dream is to have a big view of the marsh and to be a little bit closer to the beach and have a pool. There's all those things. So it's like way out of our price range. So you never know like where something will end up being better. Have you guys seen the some of the recent articles? And I'm trying to think where it was about the moon wobble. Have you guys seen this? That there's certain kinds of, I wish George was reading it or whatever, but there's some kind of effect of the moon that they're thinking will cause worse hurricanes and even more flooding. So it's like maybe the universe is trying to protect us from buying a house that's going to be in a flood zone in a couple of years from this moon wobble. So like, who knows? LA says we have a house for sale down the road. Texas, if we decided that we were going to leave, Texas might be on the list because it's one of the few states that does not have state income tax. And when you're self-employed, no state income tax is really actually pretty huge. Diane says, yes, I saw that. So this is something that I have actually thought and wondered too. And I've been journaling a little bit about it because I was like, I said to my best friend, Kelly, I've talked about her a little bit. She's my best friend from college and we still keep in touch every single day, except that she's on vacation right now. So I'm not talking to her as much as I usually do, which makes me sad, but she's having fun. But I was saying to her, this will be our forever home and the kids will grow up here. And she was like, this is not your forever home. Like once you get that TV deal and, you write this next series and all this other stuff starts happening, you're going to be in a much better house than this one. And I was like, you're crazy. This is going to be our house. And so when we lost the contract, she was like, well, this is it. So this Netflix TV deal is coming soon. And then you're going to have this money and you're going to be thinking, gosh, I wish we had bought the, $1 million house down the road or whatever. So you never know. Maybe someday that will be our lives. But either way, I was thinking and looking at Evie this morning and watching the kids last night. We went for a little walk down to the swings and the kids were swinging and we were kind of running around. We were also getting eaten alive by mosquitoes, but how it goes here in South Carolina. But it was just one of those like nice evenings. The thunder was kind of going, so we knew it was going to be a rainstorm coming up. And I just thought, you know what? It doesn't matter what house we're in because I have this amazing family and I have this great community. And so I think that it's so important to focus on those things when you're going through hard times, as it doesn't diminish the fact that it is confusing as to what to do, where to put Andrew into school, what should we plan for? Should we start packing? All of those kind of stuff. But it is just, so I had posted the kids running around too, because we've been trying to get Evie to sleep a little bit better. So we've been taking him to the swings and all this time. Plus that's part of my 6 month for life project, is being more present with the kids, less time on the phone, more time hanging out with them, and being super, super grateful for the time that I have with them, especially because Evie is growing up so fast. You guys, so it's almost August. So in just over a month, she's going to be 2 years old. I actually just set up a professional photo shoot with her and Andrew, even though I've never, ever gotten professional photos of my kids, which has just kind of been on my bucket list kind of thing. Like, why am I not getting pictures of these kids when they're little? Because I know that I'll regret it. So I'm taking care of all that stuff during the 6 months for life. Is like, I'm booking the photo shoot. I'm getting things done, that I'm spending more time with them. I'm stopping work at 5:30. I'm trying to be more mindful and more grateful. And yes, Jenna, finding happiness now is so important. And so I just kind of wanted to share that a little bit, because I think it's just something I'm learning and something I'm going through. Is like yesterday when we were out at the house, it was so beautiful. I started crying just when we turned the corner and saw that it was painted, because it was like, oh my gosh, that's the paint color. And I had not seen it on the house yet. And it was so beautiful. And it was like, oh, I just had this longing in my heart of like, I just want to know how it's going to work out. Just please let me know how it's going to work out. And then I felt really sad, because it's like almost the whole house is almost finished, and not knowing if we're going to be able to move in or not. And I think that it's okay to be sad and to feel the feelings that you're feeling and feel the disappointment, but to not stay there and let it hold you down too long, or let it keep you from enjoying and appreciating the really good things in life. And so I just wanted to kind of spread that message for anybody here who might be going through a difficult time too. If you feel like it's been really hard to focus on the positive, what I did last night was I sat down kind of with my Dream Life candle. This is just a candle that I light every once in a while that came in a subscription box from Lunam Love. And I just sat there and I lit the candle and I started journaling and writing down a gratitude list of all the things that I'm grateful for. And you guys that are here on this live streams, that are here with me, whether you're here live or you're here on the replay, but those of you that have been here with me for a while, you guys are on that list. And I just really, really appreciate all of you. So thank you for being here. And I think it is hard on Andrew too, not knowing where he'll go to school, because we were in the process of enrolling him in the school that, that's in the district where we're moving to. And he can still go there. But then if we don't actually move there, he'll just be there for 1 year and have to change schools again. So it's like, what do we do? I don't know. So what was this, George? Oh yeah. I sent Team Moana a message last night, because so here's the fun thing. And I will get to reading in just a second, but we do have a little bit of a shorter episode today comparatively. I was sitting down with the Dream Life candle and putting my gratitude in there. And so something that Tanya had told me is that if you want to get rid of negative energy, like people use sage a lot, but sage, some people say it's something that we shouldn't use because it's not as word retrieval, sustainable use. So she said you can use garlic skin to get rid of negative emotions and negative energy around you. So I was like, okay, I'm going to burn a garlic skin and say, I just want to get rid of all of this negative energy. And I'm going to pull a card. And I asked my tarot. So some of you have asked, like, what do you ask when you pull your tarot card for the evening? And I said, okay, so one of the things that I often will ask is, what do I need to see or know in this moment? But last night, what I asked was, how do I get over this feeling of, how do I let go and get over this feeling of needing to control the situation when I so clearly can't? And the card I drew was the Magician. And it just made me smile, because that card very clearly said to me, you have everything you need inside you to create the life of your dreams. It doesn't matter about this particular house or what those builders are doing or anything else. You have the power to create the life that you want and to feel the way you want to feel. And so I was like, okay, very clear message. So I took that garlic skin and I put it in my little tiny little cauldron, and I went to go light a match and lit the garlic skin and set the match down. I thought I got it blew it out, but it was still going apparently. And I put it into the cauldron, and I had other matchsticks in there. They're the long matchsticks, and it lit like all of them on fire. So it was like 10 matchsticks on fire in my tiny little cauldron. And this is right as George was putting Evie to sleep for the second time, because she woke up, and it set off all the fire alarms in the house. So, maybe just a little message there of like my passion and showing me that I can set the world on fire if I want to. I have no idea, but that was George's little message there. I had to send Timo on a picture of my magician card and tell her that I almost set the house on fire, but not really. So it's funny. Anyway, that's my funny little story. Okay, so we are going to actually read episode 7 of Rival Demons, and I'm going to have to stop smiling so much because we got to get serious, right? And I did see somebody said they saw a dragonfly, and now I can't remember. I know I saw it, and was it you, Jenna? Now I can't remember. I can't find it. I was trying to scroll back, but yeah, it's pretty funny. This girl is on fire, literally on fire, right? Who knows? But since I was just talking about how going through 2 house fires in the course of less than 2 years changed my life in dramatic ways. Not only, it was Jenna. Thank you so much for sharing that about the dragonfly. I have my new dragonfly ring on as well. This is handmade from an artisan on Etsy with a little citrine in it. So I've been wearing this a lot lately. But it's just that knowing that it's right. The fire does follow me. And it's kind of knowing that it's very important for me to stay in alignment with my joy, because bad things happen in my life when I don't. And so it was just kind of this reminder that I am a very powerful person, as are each of you, and that we really do have some control. We may not have control over what other people do or what other outside circumstances, but we do have control over how we feel a lot of the time. So, all right, episode 7. I didn't even go back through, but as just a quick recap of what I remember happening from last time is basically Harper has been trying to get into this place or she's been trying to find where the resistance army of demons keep their training rooms, because she wants to learn how to use her magic, because she's determined she's not going to sit on her hands down here in the underground for the rest of her life. She wants to learn how to use her magic and then go back to Peachville and save anyone she can. And she still has hope that she can do that. So she has been kind of trying out some new abilities, we'll say, and these abilities will continue to grow. So we will circle back to this, but she's been trying because she knows that if she follows Jackson and tries to figure out where he's going, she's going to have a hard time keeping herself hidden. So she realizes that she has a connection to his energy, and she's able to sit after, a week or so of practice. She can sit in her room and she can almost envision everything in the underground in terms of energetically. And she follows Jackson's energy signature until he goes into a room that's hidden behind a wall. So she's like, oh, it's kind of a dead end. She can't necessarily follow him through there to where the council's meeting, but she is able to figure out where the soldiers are going so that she can follow them into the place where they're training. And so that's exactly what happens at the end of episode 6 is she is able to make herself invisible, taking a big risk because she doesn't know if anybody's going to be like Jackson and be able to see through glamours. And she goes into the underground secret training room for the soldiers. So we're going to get to see a little bit of her training here. So this is chapter 29, Magic I Could Use. And this is, since you can't exactly see it, this is her writing in her journal. Training day 1, distraction. Today, the soldiers learned about the art of distracting their enemies. I watched as they each practiced distracting their enemy with one type of magic while they prepared a death blow from behind. The soldiers practice with floating dummies that look eerily human. They are not alive, but are animated with some kind of magic to make them act like living targets. One girl in particular caught my eye, and I watched her very skillfully throw a fireball directly at her target while simultaneously lifting a dagger from the floor behind the dummy. The dummy easily defended itself against the fireball, but was defeated by the well-placed dagger stabbed through its heart from behind. Watching this gave me chills. Training day 2, momentum. It seems that many of the demons here have some connection with one or more of the elements. Some used fire in their training today, while others chose wind or water. Except not all demon power seems to use a pure version of the elements. I noticed that some use lightning instead of fire, much like Agnes. Others use ice instead of water. It reminded me of the way Jackson had so quickly frozen the archers in the woods the night we were attacked by the fake witch. I wondered if every demon had its own talent where the elements were concerned, or if they each just picked one they liked and went with it. What were the rules of how the different elements could be manipulated? Maybe energy is a better word than elements. I watched today as they learned different ways to create momentum with their chosen energy. Fires that began small were infused with power to become raging infernos of rolling fire that reached from floor to ceiling, which is saying a lot considering how high the ceilings here are. One boy with particular skill in wind control created a tornado so large it swept several other students up into the air before the instructor calmed him down. Training day 3, black smoke. Out of all the magic I've seen so far, this was probably the one that I'll never be able to attempt. Today, the recruits learned to use their raw demon power as a weapon in and of itself. I remember seeing Jackson and Leah's power manifest itself in ribbons of black smoke once they passed through the portal. Jackson had said it left a trace or signature behind, but he hadn't really explained how it worked. Today, I got to see a lot more of this black smoke in action. Every time one of the demons casts a spell, the smoke seems to come from their hands. If the spell is small or weak, the smoke is thin and barely noticeable. If the spell is strong or powerful, the smoke becomes like billowing ropes that can be used to strangle an opponent or lift them into the air. Many students used their power today as a type of extension of their own hands, letting the black smoke reach out and touch something far away. I was fascinated, wishing this was a magic I could use. Training day 4, danger. I almost got caught today. I fell asleep during the afternoon session and fell against the rock behind me. I didn't lose my glamour, but I must have made a noise because several students toward the back turned to look in my direction. For a moment, I was sure they could see me. I'm going to have to be more careful. Chapter 30, A Tiny Glow. By the end of the week, my little notebook was almost completely full of journal entries from the training sessions I'd sat in on. Watching the shadow demons at work was fascinating. It was nothing like what we'd been taught on the demons' cheerleading squad. The training camp made ours look like child's play. When I first followed the soldiers into the cave, I'd had to spend some time figuring out which class was the beginner's class. The training area was made up of about 20 smaller rooms and one giant room that was about a quarter the size of the Grand Hall Marketplace. In each of the smaller rooms, individual classes met, each seeming to work at different skill levels. Some of the classes were dealing with magic that scared me. I knew those classes were way too advanced for me, so I kept looking until I found one class that used types of magic I felt I could replicate. I found a dark place in the corner where I could sit and observe them throughout the day. I remembered as much as I could from the day's lessons, and in the evenings I would spend a couple of hours in my room writing down in my notebook what I'd learned. Holding the invisibility for so many hours each day was draining, but I was surprised to find that it didn't make me sick the way it had back in the human world. Back home, I never would have been able to stay invisible for so long, but here it was much easier. I was still exhausted, but after a short break, my power came back to me. I wasn't sure where all this new power was coming from, but I liked it. In the evenings after dinner, I practiced some of what I'd seen, trying to perfect the art of distraction or learn how to manipulate fire. Of course, since I was only in my small room in the suite, I had to be very careful not to catch the whole place on fire. The space limited what I could do, but at least I was working on new skills. After that first week, though, I knew I needed a bigger place to practice. The best place would be the training room itself, but what if I got locked inside? Or if someone caught me in there? What if they had guards that walked through the rooms at night? I worried about it for 5 seconds before I decided to just do it. Hadn't I already come this far? The bottom line was that I needed the space to practice if I was ever going to learn to do these things myself. That's when I decided to stay in the training room until every last soldier and teacher had left. It took about an hour of waiting after the last class before I felt confident that I was alone. The lights had been turned out and everything around me was silent as a tomb. I finally stepped out of my hiding place and let my invisibility glamour drop. Drained, I had to sit down and meditate in the darkness for almost an hour before I felt my power return to me. Plus, I was starving. It was so stupid of me to forget to bring any food along. I'd seen the demons eating some kind of power bars during their lunch break, so they didn't have to go back to the marketplace for food. I lit a small orb and made my way to the front of the room where I'd seen the instructor with the bars. Unfortunately, there was nothing left in the box. I searched around a little more, but figured out pretty quick that I was out of luck as far as food was concerned. Luckily, there was a large container of water in the hallway. With my stomach growling from not eating since breakfast, I positioned myself in the middle of the large training space and got to work. For hours, I worked on the momentum magic I'd seen them learning last week. Not knowing which type of energy would be my strongest, I played around with all of them. I didn't want to limit myself, but I was also curious if I would naturally be better at one than another. Fire was by far the easiest for me to manipulate. I'd been accused of playing with fire my entire life, ever since my adoptive father died in a fire that I accidentally started. But I alone understood at the time that I hadn't created that fire. It was my ability to move objects around with my mind and my emotions that had set that fire. The same thing happened with Agnes the night she died. She was the one who lit the candle in that lake house that night. All I did was use my powers to make it fall over. Still, the fire had spread much more rapidly than any normal fire should have. Was that because of me? I remembered back to the old hospital the night the others had tried to kill Jackson. Hadn't I killed someone with fire that night as well? I'd sent the fire across the room like a wave to save Jackson's life. A chill spread up my arms. I'd always thought my relationship with fire was purely accidental, an unfortunate result of my ability to move things around with my mind. But there in the quiet darkness of the training room, I found something different to be true. The easy way my hands manipulated the small fire I created told me in the deepest core that I had a real connection with this blazing light in front of me. The flames responded to my every thought like an extension of myself. I moved my hands high into the air and the fire spread itself up like a giant wall in front of me. I spun around in a circle and the blaze followed, creating a perfect barrier around me. I held my hands out to my side and lifted them, amazed as the entire circle of flames rose from the ground to a spot just above my head. I was completely encircled in flame. The control and power of it made me giddy and light. I brought the fire back down to its smallest self, a tiny glow in my palm. Then, with a happy smile, I leaned over and blew it out like a birthday candle. Chapter 31, A Piece of Myself. I slept in a dark cubby on the far side of the largest training room. After my practice the night before, I'd gone to the door and tried to find a way to open it, but it wouldn't budge. I was locked in for the night. So I searched for a relatively safe place to curl up and sleep until morning. I was a little worried that Mary Ann or Leah would notice that I'd never come home, but there was nothing I could do about it from here. Tired from so much magic work, I went to sleep instantly, only waking in the morning when I heard the first voices enter the training corridor. I'd been sure to hide in a place where I'd never seen anyone practicing. Mostly, the various groups seemed to stay exclusively in the smaller rooms, rarely ever coming together in this larger hall. Rested, I quickly worked up my invisibility glamour and made my way to my normal hiding place in the beginner's training room. Things went on like this for a couple of weeks. Obviously, I couldn't stay in the training room every night. It was too hard on my body to go for so long without food. Instead, I would spend a couple of nights resting up my powers, then spend a night training, and so on. One afternoon, Mary Ann knocked on my door and pushed her way inside. "What the heck is going on with you?" she whispered, shutting the door behind her. Leah was home for once, so I hoped she wouldn't hear. I motioned for Mary Ann to join me in the bathroom. I closed the door and turned on the shower and the faucet full blast. "I can't tell you exactly," I said. She opened her mouth to protest, but I interrupted her. "If I get caught, it's better if you know nothing. Trust me," I said. Concern darkened the blue of her eyes. "What's going on, Harper? I came here to help you keep safe, not to watch you get into any kind of trouble." "I know," I said, "but I can't just sit here in the suite and stay completely clueless like they want me to. The order is still out there, here and back home, killing people and making demons into slaves and doing whatever they want to do. You guys didn't really think I'd just stay here forever and let that happen, right?" Mary Ann lowered her eyes and shook her head. "I guess not," she said. "But Harper, how can we fight them? Even if we took an army with us back home, we still wouldn't be strong enough to stop them." "How do you know that?" I asked. "Everyone keeps saying we'd never beat them, but when has anyone ever really tried? I mean, sure, small groups have fought back, but never a massive army. At least not that I've ever heard of. Instead, the king of the north sits on his throne pretending nothing is wrong. The king of the south, who knows what's up with him? The two are such vicious rivals they'd rather hate each other than work together to fight the order. And back home, how is a Demon Gate town supposed to fight back when the entire coven's lives are bound to a single person? If the prima dies, everyone dies. That's a serious weakness and one that the order uses to its full advantage. But what if we could break the connection between a prima and her demon? If we could find a way to do that, the order would have to take us out one at a time. It makes the size of the army that much bigger in an instant, right?" Mary Ann nodded, but there was still doubt in her eyes. "I know what you're thinking," I said. "You and Jackson both think I'm crazy for insisting there's a way to break this connection, but I'm telling you, I know there is a way, and I won't stop until I find it." "You think the answer might be in those books, don't you?" she asked. "The books the soldiers brought back from the hunters?" I nodded. "I know it sounds like a long shot, but don't you think it's possible? I mean, those books could be hundreds of years old. These hunters aren't really human anymore. You heard what they said. They're bonded to several demons so they can live longer." Mary Ann's face grew sad, and I knew she must be thinking of her own family. The old Crow Witch did something similar to stay alive for 100 years by taking the power from other witches. These hunters were the same. "I'm sorry," I said. "I wasn't thinking about—" My words drifted off. "It's okay," she said. "We all have our own family's past to deal with. I'm not proud of where I come from, but I'm not like them. I want to make something different in my life." "You already have," I said. Mary Ann wiped away a tear and smiled up at me. "I'll help you however I can," she said. "You know that, right?" I hugged her small frame and nodded. "I know," I said. "Please tell me what you're doing," she said. "I hate being in the dark." I suddenly realized, looking at the sadness in her eyes, that I was shutting her out the same way Jackson had shut me out. Yes, I'd been trying to protect her, but didn't she deserve to know? We sat down together on the tile floor of my bathroom, and I told her everything I'd been doing in the training room. She was surprised but excited for me. I've barely used magic at all since we got here, she said. I think my wounds are still healing because I haven't been able to shift. I tried to explain it to Essex, my shape-shifting, but I couldn't make it happen. When I tried to cast my magic, my side hurt so bad I couldn't keep going. Just give it more time, I said. You were hurt pretty badly. I know, she said. I just worry that I won't be able to ever use magic again. You will, I said. It's a part of you, just like it's a part of me. Besides, it's the pain that's stopping you, and that won't last forever. She squeezed my hand. Thanks. So you'll cover me if Leah ever realizes I'm gone overnight? I asked. Marianne giggled. Maybe I'll tell her you found a nice demon to shack up with. I playfully punched her arm. Hey, speaking of shacking up, what's with you and Essex? Is there officially a romance there? She blushed and avoided my eyes. She shrugged like it wasn't a big deal, but I knew differently. Hey, it's not like you're the only one who ever loved a shadow demon, I said. You don't have to worry about judgment from me. I really like him a lot, she said. I never liked any of the boys back home, not even a little bit. I always felt so different, like I didn't really belong there. But here, with Essex, he feels the same way about you, I said. You think so? Isn't it obvious? I said, have you guys talked about it? She shook her head and started playing with the hem of her skirt. I'm too scared to really bring it up after, what Jackson said about the demons here being forbidden to love humans. It's a stupid rule anyway. Yes, it is, she said. Do you miss him? My breath caught in my throat for a second. Did I miss him? Such a simple question for such a complex set of emotions. I nodded yes, but what I meant was that every day we spent apart, I felt like a piece of myself was missing. I try not to think about it, I said once I felt that I was in control of my voice again. Is that why you're doing all of this? She asked, risking so much to train and look for the books. I shrugged. Maybe, I said, tugging on the white strip of fabric tied to my wrist. But mostly it's because I'm tired of being helpless. Marianne gave me another hug and stood up, moving to turn off the water. I've got your back, she said. Whatever you need. Thanks, I said. And Harper? She turned back just as she was almost out the door. Yes? Promise me you won't leave here without saying goodbye. I started to deny that I was planning to leave, but I knew she wasn't stupid. After a moment, I nodded. I promise. Chapter 32. I had to know. I'd learned so much about magic and fighting from my days in the training room, but there was still the matter of the library. I knew I could spend the rest of my life training at the different magic levels and probably still not learn everything. After all, the shadow demons were immortal. They had no time limit to their learning, while I felt time slipping through my fingers with every day I remained stuck inside this underground fortress. I had to find a way into the library. My only guess was that it was somewhere down the same hallway I'd seen Jackson disappear the day I'd connected to his essence. As reluctant as I was to stop my training, I knew my best chance at getting into the library was to follow a similar plan to the one I'd used to sneak into the training door. I needed to get there early, but I knew that there would be no throng of soldiers crowding in and out, making me much less noticeable. Getting into the council's secret space was going to take a little bit more planning. I followed the map I'd made in my notebook back to the place where I'd seen Jackson disappear into the wall. I studied the shops in the area, looking for some place where I could sit and watch the entrance without looking too suspicious. Unfortunately, the only place I could find that had a clear view to the wall was a blacksmith shop. I couldn't think of any reason why I'd be spending several days hanging out at their shop, so I needed a different plan. I stood there for a minute studying the area and trying to find a place where I could hide, but the tents here were more spaced out. Hiding between them might be a little more risky. Then I looked up and saw that from here I could see the balcony of the stairs where we'd first come into the underground. My heart skipped. If I had a clear view of it from here, then I should have a really good view of this wall from way up there. I had to slow my steps to hide my excitement. As casually as possible, I made my way through the maze of tents, up the left side of the double staircase, and straight to the balcony area. Yes, I could easily sit here in the corner and peer down through the marble banisters. I had a perfect view of the wall and would be able to see exactly who was coming in and out, and more importantly, when they were coming and going. The only trouble would be if there were other people on the stairs, but for the most part, no one came in and out of the underground except to bring in food or supplies. As far as I had observed, that only happened every once in a while. Certainly not every day or even every other day. Besides, if anyone saw me sitting here, I could easily explain that I was sitting up so high so that I could get a better view of the marketplace for my drawings. Drawings I would work on while I sat up here for hours. I used to love to draw. Before I came to Peachville, I would spend hours working on drawings of my mother or trying to draw things I'd seen in my dreams. Since I joined the cheerleading team, I'd barely taken the time to draw much of anything. It might be nice to sit up here on this balcony and get back into it. The next morning, I woke up early and made my way to the hidden spot on the balcony. This early, there was never much activity in the marketplace. Mostly, it was just quiet and peaceful. A bakery somewhere on the south side smelled of heaven. My mouth watered, but I was anxious to get in place. I didn't want to miss anything. I carried a blank notebook today. I didn't want anyone to question me and find that I had been taking notes and drawing maps this whole time. I needed my drawing excuse to look legit if someone saw me. An hour passed before anyone made a move toward the wall. I didn't recognize the robed man who went inside. I'd never seen anyone dressed that way, and I wondered if he was one of the elusive scholars Essex told me about. No one else went through the wall for another hour or so. But I recognized the woman who went in next, Aurelia, Andros's wife. She was alone, but in an obvious hurry. In her hands, she carried a couple of bags, but I couldn't see what might be inside of them. Throughout the day, more demons came in and out, sometimes in groups and sometimes alone. There seemed to be no rhyme or reason to the times of day they chose. Everyone seemed to come and go as they pleased. The first day, there was no sign of Jackson or Leah. Day 2 was much more informative. Jackson, Andros, Leah, and Jericho all walked into the corridor together relatively early in the morning and didn't emerge until well after dinner time. What did they do in there all day? On day 4, I was tired of waiting and ready to make my move. Luckily, no one had noticed me on the balcony. I did, however, have several nice drawings of the marketplace that had kept me from being too bored while I was staking the place out. I left my notebook behind the 4th morning. I waited until the area near the door was completely abandoned. Then I made myself invisible and hid off to the side next to the blacksmith's tent. Within half an hour or so, an elderly demon came up to the door alone. Quiet as a whisper, I fell in behind him and stepped inside, undetected. When I stepped into the corridor, the tiny hairs on the back of my neck perked up. Instantly, I knew something was different here. I could feel it in my bones. The hall was wider in general, and I think the ceilings were a little higher here as well. But more than just the way it looked, it was all about the way it felt. There was the feel of magic in the air. I followed the old man until the hallway came to a cross with long corridors stretching out in front and behind and on both sides. The man turned left and disappeared behind a door about 10 feet from where I stood watching. There was no other soul to be seen down any of the passageways. Following some unknown instinct, I walked straight ahead. Instead of lamps, the hallway here was lit by glowing stones embedded into the rock walls. There was something almost holy about the quietness of the place. I didn't pass a single doorway that I could see, But up ahead, at the very end of the hallway, a door appeared. My heartbeat sped up as I approached. This door was different from any of the others. First of all, it was a very tall, very wide door made of pure green stone, like an emerald. I paused when I reached the end, looking behind me to make sure no one had followed me down the corridor. I was completely alone. I hesitated as I stared up at the huge door. Was this the council's meeting chamber? If I tried to open the door, would an alarm go off? I knew it was risky, but hadn't I risked everything already? What if the spell book I'd been searching for all this time was just on the other side of this door? I had to know. I placed my hand on the cool marble and pushed. Chapter 33. Not all of us have time. Nothing happened. The door wouldn't budge. I looked for some kind of handle so I could try to pull it open instead, but the surface was flat. There was nothing to grab onto that I could see. Disappointed, I stepped back and studied the entire area around the door. That's when I heard them. Voices on the other side, getting closer by the second. My breath caught in my throat, and I looked around frantically for a place to hide. The door began to swing open very slowly, and I ducked behind it, hiding in the shadowy space between the door and the wall. "This is an interesting proposition," a man's voice said, "but it's also extremely dangerous. But you have thousands of followers here, enough that you could build an army." I gasped, then quickly covered my mouth with my hand. Jackson. I'd know his voice anywhere. No wonder I'd been drawn to this hallway. I should have recognized that it was his closeness I was feeling. I pressed even closer to the wall, hoping I was well hidden. "We've been through this. Even with thousands of us fighting together, how could we hope to defeat an organization as powerful as the Order? They have more than twice our numbers," the other man said. I couldn't be sure, but it sounded like Andros. The group leaving the room was far enough away now that I could see their backs as they walked down the hall. Jackson, Andros, Leah, and another man I didn't recognize. "We're forgetting our power here," Leah said. "If we train and apply ourselves, I know we could come up with a plan that would succeed. Besides, we do have some human witches on the other side who would fight with us." "If the Order doesn't kill them all first," Andros said, bitterness dripping from his lips. "I think it's better for us to wait. See what happens to the Order over the next 50 years. Watch them closely and see if we can find a weak spot. Remember, we have something they don't have." "What's that?" Jackson asked. "Time," Andros said. "Not all of us have time," Jackson protested. "My brother, for example, what will happen to him when he's bound with a different family line, one who isn't as opposed to slavery as Harper?" "Your human girl, this Prima?" the stranger said. My mouth went dry at his mention of me. "You're sure her loyalties are with you? It's not possible she's a spy for the Order? If bringing her here has compromised our secrecy, we could be in danger as we stand here talking." At that, I nearly came out from the shadows to give this unknown man a piece of my mind. I had nearly died for this cause. How could anyone think I could be a spy for the Order? But I held back, figuring that jumping out of the shadows wouldn't exactly make me look more trustworthy. Luckily, I had Jackson there to stand up for me. "There's no chance Harper would ever betray us," he said. "I've told you this over and over. She wants to see the Order ended every bit as much as we all do. She may have a mind of her own when it comes to following the rules sometimes, but you can trust her. I give you my word on this." I relaxed slightly. It felt good to hear him still defending me. The voices faded as the group walked farther away. I nearly screeched as the marble door began to close. Any second, I would lose my chance at getting into that room. But how could I be sure I would ever be able to get out? What if I got it stuck inside for days? Panic shot through me. I didn't want to lose this chance at getting inside. Without really thinking it through, I quickly stepped around the open door and into the darkness of the room beyond it. Seconds later, the heavy doors closed, leaving me completely alone in the blackness. There you go. Dun, dun, dun. Okay, Harper. She's definitely upping her risk factor here. She cannot stop putting herself in danger. And, I think that in some ways it makes sense, of course, because she's like, okay, I'm going to put myself in danger because this is what I have to do in order to, move forward, in order to learn what I have to learn. And she has felt this whole time that if, there has to be a way, if there's a way to make the magic work, there has to be a way to undo it. And it's just a matter of finding the secret ritual, right? And she knows that somewhere someone has to know how to do it. But she knows from being a part of the order in her, cheerleader days there, that they keep so much. Even Zara doesn't know everything that her mother knows. Even Mrs. Shadowford doesn't know everything. So they make sure that they don't tell everyone every little piece of the puzzle, right? They're keeping their own secrets, and there's all this hierarchy of who knows what. And she is just sure there has to be a way to undo this spell that holds the primas and holds these gates open. And so she's looking for that everywhere. And of course, they thought maybe the Crow Witch had it back in the Crow Village, but that wasn't, if it was there, it's gone now. And so this is her big chance. But I like this scene. And I wanted to continue on. I saw some of you were like, oh, I was waiting for it to go, right, Anisha? And I originally, that was where the break was originally, but I decided to go on to that one extra scene because I like the fact that she's so confused really about where Jackson's loyalties are. It's like she knows he cares about her, but he's obviously like spending all his time with Leah, spending all his time with Andros. They're, they're in their secret little place and they're not talking to her, but she's over here going, if we could just put together an army, we could defeat them. And so I really like this moment where she finally sneaks into this council's area where the library is and all this information. And she says, she hears Jackson basically telling Andros the same thing that she's been saying, that if we could just build an army, maybe we could defeat the order. And so I think it's her first glimpse of, her naivete, so to speak, of she thinks like nobody else is willing to fight, but there are ways that things need to happen. Like it's also this understanding that, like Andros says, we have time. We're immortal. We can wait the order out. And that's going to become a theme even more as we move into book 5, end of book 5 and book 6 is, the demons, they have more time. Like, hey, if we wait 50 years, these witches will be dead, right? And then it'll be a whole new group of witches because they don't live as long as we do. And, but Jackson's basically, he's saying not everybody has time. What about my brother? But what he's really thinking, of course, is, what about Harper? We can't wait 50 years and she's going to be 67, 70 years old and almost to the end of her life. And I'm still going to be sitting here looking like I'm 18, and I want to figure this out so that I can have time with her. But he can't say that necessarily because they're stuck here in a place where he's not allowed to admit how much he cares for her. So it's a lot of complicated things kind of all coming to a head here, which I really like. Actually, I don't think that ever has been necessarily discussed before. What is Harper's sun sign? So her birthday would be around Halloween time. So what is that? Is that Scorpion? She would be Scorpio? I think so. So Scorpio, what is that? I don't know. I never really think about that in terms of, because I don't always feel like I connect well to my sun sign, which is Aquarius. Sometimes I do, sometimes I don't, but I'm kind of on the cusp there. So it's kind of interesting. So Ale says, when I read book 1, I thought this was going to be a story about an unlucky girl who gets to this place and she's a witch and the witches welcome her and are happy to have her. And then every new book, I'm like, damn, this is dark. Yeah, it does take its certain turns, I guess, I think that in some ways I was channeling my regrets about being bullied by cheerleaders when I was younger. So I think it's kind of interesting. So I think that my sun sign is Aquarius and my moon sign is Pisces, but I'm not 100% certain. I have to go look at my chart. But I think my moon sign is Pisces. So anyway, I hope you guys are enjoying Harper. She is very impulsive. And I saw that Patty put that Harper's impulsive. I like to write impulsive heroines. It's like she does think things through, but when it comes to the end, she is learning to trust herself. Like, okay, I don't really have time to think this through, but I know that this is the only way to get to where I want to go is this place. And she's also in a place where she's kind of like, well, it's either put myself at risk or spend the rest of my life in a place where I'm unhappy and I know people are suffering. So, I mean, what choice do I have, right? So she's kind of, she's impulsive, but she also has a journal where she's been journaling and thinking these things through for a long time. So it's kind of interesting. Yeah, she's not just impulsive. She does have a plan. Hello.
I saw Roomba.
She said, I saw the Roomba. Did you see the Roomba? Was it going?
Oh, this one.
Which one?
This one.
This?
This one.
You know what this is? A calculator. Can you say calculator?
Calculator.
That's very good.
Oh, 30 pounds.
It's 30 pounds. Did you guys hear her say calculator? I'm telling you, this baby has a vocabulary of over 300 words and she's not even 2 yet.
No, 2 things.
You know 2 things? Do you know what those numbers are?
2 things.
2 things. Can you count to 10?
1. You hear a sound? You hear that sound?
I did hear a sound. That was Daddy going up the stairs. Our Roomba is called Victoria. You've got to be kidding me. That is really funny, Angela. Oh gosh, I feel like I've been smiling and laughing too much today, which is really actually quite good. But anyway, yeah, she's a sweet little girl. Let's see. How do we find our sun signs and moon sign? My horoscope sign is Sagittarius. So your horoscope sign is going to be your sun sign, but you should have a moon sign as well. And I think that you can just Google how do I find my moon sign, and you'll probably find a thing that it's all related to.
Play na-na-na.
Play na-na-na. What are you telling Google to do? You're going to wake up everybody's Googles. Want to see your own face there? Here, lower this so everybody can see your face. You say hi? Are you so smiley?
Hi.
Hi. She's very talkative because her mommy also talks all the time. George's like, I know where she gets it from. I think if anybody has a good site where you can find your star chart or your moon and sun signs. What, baby?
This one.
Which one?
This one.
This?
Oh.
No. You want these?
These.
Yeah. She also has little sticky notes on her hands because she comes into my office and she finds them. These are Erin Condren from the back of my planner. They're like my little sticky notes from the back of my planner. She's so funny. What'd you say? Here.
It's too small.
It's too small. No, it's not too small. There you go. All right, you guys, that's all we have for today. So on Wednesday, I'm going to leave you with probably the biggest dun moment of the book so far. But it is really good. Andrew's home, but he's on screens until 5. So I don't know if he wants to come down, but I will make him come down on Wednesday so you guys can kind of see him because he's been MIA from the live streams for a bit. But he is home and he is also just getting bigger and bigger and growing up so much. He's such a good brother. Okay, you can get down. You want to say bye to everybody first?
Bye, everybody.
Bye, everybody. But I will see if he will come down on Wednesday. Debbie, I'll ask him for sure. But on Wednesday, we will read episode 8. And this is I think it's how do I say it without spoilers for those of you that have not read? We are going to end on a big piece of information is what we will say, that will kind of change and help you to understand a little bit more of what's happening. And then after that, it's pretty much nonstop until the end of the book. So we're getting there now. So it's lots of fun. And then of course, book 6 there's just a lot of fun stuff coming. So I'm pretty excited about it. And I actually have started rereading the entire series as well. So I'm back to book 1, and hopefully by tomorrow we'll be on book 2 so that I can take lots of notes as I'm beginning to write the rough draft of book 12, which is so crazy. So it all comes full circle. So that's where we are. All right, you guys, thank you so much for listening to my update about the house and everything. I know it's going to work out. I will show you guys some of the pictures, but if you go to my, I think I put them on my Heart Breathings. If you go to Instagram.com/heartbreathings, I put a few photos of the house over there. And I think I put one on my Sarah Cannon Instagram as well, if you want to go see the updates, but I will share some of those on Friday. And yeah, if you have a spare good vibe to send that everything will work out, let us know. I'm not a speed reader, but I am kind of skimming through. I'm just mostly rereading to get notes about the basic thread. So I'm not like reading every bit of dialogue. So I'm kind of speeding my way through these first 5 books because they're kind of fresh in my mind. But then I'll slow down once I get to book 6. So, all right, you guys, thank you so much for being here. I hope you all have many more smiles and happy thoughts throughout the rest of the afternoon. And I will see you all again on Wednesday. Bye.